Morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We'd like to get our breakfast going.
Is it on?
It is on.
Are we there now? Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's get going here today for our first Peter F. Secchia sponsored breakfast of the 2014 school year. And I am very pleased, and I'm sure Peter likes to have students here. I was back in the back. I think we need to change this around, but students, it's your turn now. Hello. There they are. You're going to cheer for me. Come on. Let's go. I'm very pleased to welcome everyone to our first breakfast of the season. I'm Bill Smith, president of CompuCraft Technology Solutions, and I have the privilege as president of the Alumni Association to welcome our speaker today. These breakfasts are organized through a lot of behind-the-scenes work from our Alumni Association and our very own Vani Herrera, and we thank you, Vani, for making these things happen. I would also like to acknowledge some special guests that we have today. Ambassador Peter Secchia is with us today. President Tom Haas is here. Steve Ender, president of Grand Rapids Community College, is here. And our very own Diana Lawson. Where's Diana? There she is. Diana, welcome to your first Secchia breakfast. We like that. So when I have to introduce speakers, the first thing I like to do is Google a little bit. And Michael, I didn't know that you were an investigative reporter in San Francisco, but you came up and you've done a lot of good work there, and we're happy to have you here in Michigan now. And the other interesting thing is, it's interesting that a guy with a degree in human resources is pretty much the marketing guy of the state of Michigan that knows the 4 Ps of marketing, so we appreciate that. I know that I can speak for a lot of the small businesses here. The work that the MEDC has done has significantly impacted our business in a positive manner in the last few years, and we certainly appreciate that. And he also knows how to tweet, which was pretty amazing. He's a Twitter tweeter or something like that. So Michael leads the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the MEDC, which is a public-private partnership. And it's our state's marketing arm, and it leads, it's the lead advocate for business development, talent and jobs, tourism, film and digital media incentives, arts and cultural grants, and overall economic growth. And I was very pleased to see that under the Michigan Pure Business Connect, or the Pure Michigan Business Connect, get those acronyms right, that he helped to facilitate $1.7 billion in revenue for Michigan companies that resulted in 8,500 jobs. Thank you, Michael. He works with a long list of partners. I wish I could list them all, but I would take all your time. But there are some here that are very dear to us. Our regional and local development partners over here in West Michigan appreciate your partnership. The Michigan Small Business Development Center, which we have right here in this fine new building. The Michigan Smart Zone Network, the Next Energy, the Michigan Manufacturing Technology, but above all, the work that you do with the colleges and universities. We certainly appreciate that. Don't you think, Tom? It's very helpful. His responsibilities at the MEDC also include serving as Governor Rick Snyder's Economic Growth Group executive and president and chairman of the Michigan Strategic Fund. He has a Bachelor of Business Administration from Saginaw Valley State University, which, stopped me for a second, don't forget Battle of the Valleys this November. And we may send a personal invite for you to come over and watch that game with us. And a side note to that, we have a lot of fun with that, but it raises a significant amount of money for charities that our students pull together. So thanks again back there, students. and a master's degree from Central Michigan. So, Michael, without much more ado, please join me. The podium is yours.
Well, thanks, Bill. Yep. Well, good morning. Man, this is really fantastic to have such an outstanding audience of both students, and I'm really particularly excited about all the students who are here. I have to tell you a little story. My youngest son graduated from high school this past year, Huron High School in Ann Arbor, and one of his buddies is a student here at Grand Valley. And so I'm on the phone last night with my wife, and my wife doesn't believe I do all this stuff. She thinks I'm just off playing golf someplace and, you know, I'm not really working that hard. And so this kid, his name is Dylan, had called my son and said that the campus is all abuzz about your dad coming here. Now, my kids don't think that much of, right? I mean, you know, for something to be all abuzz about me, my kids take that pretty lightly. In fact, I could tell you more stories about them if I had time. But yeah, so Dylan was telling my son this thing is all abuzz, and he's trying to get a ticket, and he can't get a ticket. And so I told my wife, it's like that all the time. You know, it's like that every place I go. And so we had a good laugh about that. And but thank you so much for coming out in force and showing the kind of collaboration, community-based support and interest that we know at the state level anyway that exists over here, with great partners like the Right Place and Lakeshore Advantage and so many others, the SBDC, what Kevin McCurran is doing in the tech space. I mean, these are all just amazing resources that we get to work with at the MEDC, and you really are a model for how to bring a community together, how to create economic vitality, and that's important. You know, there's three things that are really important about what we do, because those three things must work together in order for us to be successful in revitalizing our state. Those three things are really simple. It's all these students that we have here, and all of you, talent. You know, talent is, I think, the new currency in economic development. That's my new little buzz term. Everything is all about tax credits and other things, but the reality is, in the economic development world right now, those locations that have the talent have the ability to be successful in growing businesses. Whether it's existing companies or startups, it is all about talent. Every single company that I talk to, that's the first thing they say. So it's really exciting that the young people are here, and hopefully there's something that I say that will resonate with you, that will encourage you to think about finding your first opportunity or next opportunity here in the state of Michigan. The second thing that's a part of that formula of talent is, of course, businesses. So, you know, talent might go there because it's a cool place to be, but if the businesses don't show up in force to provide the kind of opportunities they're looking for, the talent won't stay. So a cool place has to have cool businesses. But, you know, businesses and talent need to have cool places, right? So you get my circular logic here. Cool places only exist when communities make the kind of investments that it takes to really enjoy what you have here tonight. I always, when I go visit cities, I don't care where I'm at, I get out and I walk around, right? So when I go to Detroit or Chicago or Atlanta or wherever, you know, I'm one of these people who is very adventurous. I don't go and do things that would be dumb, but I do try and get a sense of the vibrancy of a community. So I did that last night. So, you know, President Haas had us out for a wonderful dinner last night, and I was so glad that we wrapped up about 8:30 or so, because that meant I didn't have to go walking at 11 o'clock at night. So I went walking, and it was just a buzz, right? The town was a buzz. People were everywhere. Students were everywhere. I walked across the Blue Bridge, and there's just, I don't know, 50 or 60 students waiting to catch the bus. I'm assuming back to the other campus or someplace in town. It was really a buzz. And that's the kind of vibrancy that it's all about. So it's talent, it's business and job creation, and then it's cool cities, having cities that are vibrant. You know, and if you have them, you can be successful. If you don't have them, you're not. So that's my talk, right? But I got some slides I want to show you anyway, because my staff put this slide presentation together, and I should go through it. But it really is summed up in what I just said, and that's what our work is all about. So a little bit of this is about the how-to. And I like to start with my closing slide, right? So my closing slide is all to reinforce, the fact that all the good things that have been happening in the state of Michigan are starting to make a difference, right? So this is my last slide, but it's my first slide. Michigan is, in fact, America's comeback state. Right? Since Governor Snyder took office, roughly since December 2010 after he was elected, nearly 300,000 jobs have been created in the state of Michigan. Now, keep in mind, in the previous decade, we lost about 750,000 jobs. So we still have a long way to go. But clearly, we're on a path toward, bringing back and creating the environment that's allowing businesses to grow and invest in our state again. Our unemployment rate has dropped fairly dramatically during that time frame. And again, you can see the other just key points that we try and make about Michigan's comeback. And by the way, this is not something that we put together. These are all facts that we're pulling either from organizations that are out there that rank and rate states and talk about their economic prosperity, or just a simple fact of the number of jobs that have been created as reported by the U.S. Department of Labor. So that's where Michigan is at right now. And we should all feel good about that. And this community is certainly a major contributor to our state's economic success. By the way, I have to pause for 1 second, because as I'm scanning the audience, I spotted one of my board members. And he shook his head, say no, so I'm not going to introduce him, but Greg is here. So some of the other things that's happening, so how do we get to those results that I just shared with you, right? So we get there by making changes that really matter, by listening to our business community, by listening to our talent, by paying attention to what our communities are saying, because these are all of our customers, right? Young people, talent, businesses, because they are making the investments and creating the jobs, and the communities, because you have to do the right things, you have to have the right kind of policy to create the vibrancy that we need. So a lot of positive business changes have been made, right? Lowering the business tax was probably one of the more significant ones that show up in the ratings and rankings for the state of Michigan. At one point, we were number 49 out of the 50 states. We were second worst when it came to the business tax. Michigan is now in the top, I think, 6 or 7, right? We've dramatically changed our business tax climate. And in doing so, you now encourage companies to locate here. And the most recent change, because you can certainly be a critic and say that it's unfair to cut business taxes and push them off to someplace else. And that's a legitimate concern, by the way. But when you do the right kind of tax policy, it makes sense to our citizenry as much as it does to the business community. And the phase out of the personal property tax is a perfect example, where that didn't happen just because the legislature and the executive branch decided to make that change. It took a vote of our people to really make it effective. And the citizens of the state of Michigan overwhelmingly made that change. And the importance of it is that we now are encouraging businesses to buy that next piece of equipment, make that next investment in Michigan, because they won't pay a tax on it indefinitely. Those are the kinds of positive business changes that are being made. And again, I won't read the entire list, but I think it speaks for itself. So now that we have these wonderful policies that are being put in place at the state level, we have to have good strategy in economic development in order to maximize the impact of it, right? There's nothing worse than having, good policy and no strategy for how you're going to move your state forward in terms of economic development. So that's what we've been, that's where we come in. So this is where the MEDC becomes the resource that's going to help our state move forward. So our approach is pretty balanced. We focus on business growth, talent enhancement, creating vibrant communities. Isn't that interesting, right? Since those are the three things that I think are most important. But the other thing that we do, and I like to highlight this, is that we manage this incredible brand. Bill talked about me being a marketing guy, and I think there's two things I should have been that I'm not. One is a marketer and the other one's an engineer, because I'm incredibly mechanically inclined, and I just have a good sense about how to reach an audience. If I understand who my customer is, if I listen to my customer, I have a great opportunity to then present that customer with something that they want to buy. And that's what the Pure Michigan branding is all about. And so we've taken a tourism brand and we've now extended it to be a statewide brand for both tourism and business. And it's really working. So, strategy, this is very high level. So let me walk you through a few details, and I won't go through all the detail, but there are a few examples that probably are the best way to present the detail of how this strategy rolls out. So when it comes to business growth and investment, here's a couple of examples of programs that we've put in place that literally are cutting-edge things in economic development. Now, if you don't know the economic development world, for me to stand up here and say cutting edge, this is pretty mundane stuff to you. But if you're a techie like I am about economic development, this is really cool stuff, right? So students, this is cool stuff. So we have a program that Bill referenced in his introduction called Pure Michigan Business Connect. And it's really simple. What we do as an organization is that we introduce companies to each other who might be able to do business with each other. Well, I can see the kids back there saying, well, that's not all that cool. That's just straightforward. That should be normal, right? Introducing businesses to each other who can do business together. But interestingly enough, that was not something that the MEDC ever did. And we've now looked at our peers around the country, and we're not finding any other state that's taken business-to-business connections as a serious opportunity for economic prosperity, for job growth and creation. And here in Michigan, we've been very, very fortunate because we have hundreds of companies who are now participating in the program. And as of the end of this year, we're on target to hit about $2 billion of facilitated business-to-business activity. And that may not sound all that significant, but our goal over about the next 5 years or so is to try and hit $8 billion of B2B activity. And that $8 billion has an amazing translation. And here's how it works. Whoops. Here's how it works. For every $200,000 of new business that a company gets, on average in the state of Michigan, one job is created. So if we're successful in hitting our $8 billion goal, 40,000 jobs will be created in the state of Michigan. And we're not using your tax dollars as tax credits or cash incentives or anything else. It's just simply us using all the knowledge that we already have in our database and all the knowledge that our partners have about companies that could, in fact, do business with each other. How simple is that? And for people like me who are really geeks about economic development, how cool is that? Right? We're just leveraging relationships that we already have. And to be real honest, I spent most of my career running an aerospace manufacturing company. And if the MEDC had shown up, which they did every year to talk to us about our growth and expansion, but if they had walked in my door and said, Mike, we have a great opportunity for you. We're going to help you find new customers, I would have thrown them out. Because government is never there to help you grow your business, right? They're there to extract something from you. Right? I mean, that's the attitude that most businesses have. It was certainly the attitude that I had when I was in the private sector. But we've now flipped that on its head, and we literally have businesses contacting us, looking for opportunities, asking us, can we help them open doors? That's why I say it's cool, because that typically doesn't happen. Most of the time, businesses are calling us looking for a dollar, a tax credit, or something else, and that's no longer the case. They're coming to us, and this is just a short list of some of the companies that we're working with, and it has the potential to be billions of dollars. Very, very positive impact. Another cool program, and this is our most active tool that we have, and it's a loan program. Imagine that. We're not giving away grants, we're not giving away tax credits, we're making loans to companies so they can make the investments in people and infrastructure, equipment, and so on, to grow their companies. And so why is a loan program our most active tool when our state, like most states, have, grants that we give to companies, right? Wouldn't you take the grant instead of a loan? Well, the reason the loan program is so important is because I know that when businesses need money to invest and grow, they need it today. And our grant programs and tax credit programs are not set up to give companies money today. They actually have to hire a lot of people. They have to invest in facilities, equipment, and everything else. And then over a 2 to 3, sometimes as long as 20-year period, they then get to collect tax credits against the investments that they've made. So if you need money up front to hire people, buy equipment, inventory, and so on, the whole tax credit maneuver doesn't work. But a loan, when you sign on the dotted line, you get that money today. And so we participate with banks through a program called the State Small Business Credit Initiative. And what we do is we provide collateral support or we participate in loans so that companies, especially small and medium-sized companies, can get access to the capital that they otherwise have struggled to get. It's a really simple thing. And we average about one loan transaction a day. Some of them are really small, in the thousands of dollars. Others are fairly large, up to $5 million. And it just depends on the size of the company, the debt facility they're trying to secure, and the products and services they're providing. It's a really cool thing. And again, I mention this because Michigan was the innovator. We invented this actually at a time when many, many small companies in our state could not get a loan because their buildings and when the real estate market tanked, they had no collateral. You know, they mortgaged their building, they mortgaged their car, they tried to mortgage their spouse and their kids. And of course, it didn't work. And so as a result, you had to have some kind of a backstop. And this collateral support program became the tool that then was modeled at the federal level through the U.S. Department of Treasury to create the State Small Business Credit Initiative. Those are the kind of innovations that we're focused on that no one else in the economic development world is doing, and it's having a very, very positive impact here in Michigan. And then the other thing is we do give away some cash to companies under the right circumstances, especially when we're competing with other states. And I've got a couple examples in here that are right here in the Grand Rapids area that happened just yesterday, where, you know, the loan program we've exhausted, the business-to-business connect we've exhausted, but you've got a company where they have competing, or we have competing locations, and there's still some kind of a economic gap. And so then we use the limited cash that we have to try and fill that economic gap. And so that's what this tool is all about. Those grants tend to range from $3 to $10 million per employee, and again, it varies depending on the type of jobs and the relative compensation that those jobs pay. So those are just a few of the tools that we use in the business development space to try and, in fact, help companies grow here in our state. In the talent space, this is where we have a lot of fun, and all the young people in the room should get very excited about this. If you haven't gone to mitalent.org and loaded up your resume, assuming you're ready to graduate or looking for an internship, I would encourage you to do that, mitalent.org. Get your resume on there, start perusing the jobs and looking for the opportunities that are there. I think, you know, this slide presentation was put together last week, but there were more than 80,000 open jobs on our website right now. And that's only a fraction of the open jobs in the state of Michigan, by the way. It's not everything. 80,000 jobs right now that's available. And the challenge we have is that there's a bit of a skills mismatch. Lots of jobs for engineers and software and IT professionals and many others, business disciplines. But there's also a ton of jobs for welders and machinists and mechatronics professionals and so on and so forth, a lot of the trades. And so in partnership with our community colleges, we're trying to move forward to create a much greater pipeline of talent to support some of the vocational occupations and trades that we have a real high need for throughout the state right now. So in the talent space, we've got a number of things going on that are pretty exciting. Some of the jobs that are coming to the Grand Rapids area. We had 2 companies just yesterday, and I encourage you to reach out to them if you're looking for a new opportunity. Plasan Carbon Composites. This is cutting-edge stuff in the manufacturing space. You talk about new technology and lightweighting of materials. You know, what's going to allow us to fly planes much more cost-effectively and efficiently and drive cars more efficiently, have greater strength,